Good afternoon, morning, evening, or night, ladies and gents, and welcome to this special one-off video about Dark Souls 2. We're a little unsure on how to structure it, but we figure this would be a nice place for these guys to vent. I'm Alex, the host, with Ruben and Jim. No James, because he hasn't played Dark Souls 2, so... Where do you guys want to begin with this one, then? Because we keep bringing up Dark Souls 2 on the cast, and you guys just constantly shit on it. And if there are a few people that respond no, it's not as bad as you guys say and all this, but
it is
a chance to just go in or as much detail as you like on what you think is shit about Dark Souls 2 and what bothers you about it. I haven't played it. I'm completely impartial, so I'm just ready to listen.
Well, I want to preface this with when the task was set that we would do this. We were playing this game. And we were doing a boss that we're about to get to. And I died during it. And after that, I just didn't want to go on it again. And then we were playing Call of Duty and we started talking about taxes. So then I just set myself the challenge of looking into different countries and how they do tax instead of playing this game.
Because it's more interesting.
Because it's more interesting. I learned a lot.
Yeah. Learning about taxes in other countries is more interesting than playing this game. No,
I had a better time.
I mean, the place to start is the way it looks.
Yeah, it looks terrible.
Because I mean, you can see it on screen right now.
Oh, by the way, sorry to interrupt, but I'm screen recording Jim streaming it, so it's not going to be the best quality video, but it's enough to illustrate.
As long as the audio is good, no one cares.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
Sorry. About how it looks. What is it? The art direction, the animations, what is it?
I mean, first of all, just texture quality, terrible. So much of the atmosphere. I know it's such a vague thing to say, but the atmosphere is just gone. It doesn't look like Dark Souls.
The shaders and the lighting are terrible as well. Absolutely
terrible. Controversy, wasn't there, where they showed it off originally and it had a different lighting system or something like that?
It was the game was meant to be sort of based around this
the torch and illuminating
you could, choose to carry a torch or a shield.
Seems like a cool idea, but what? Too ambitious. What?
Yeah, they just couldn't do it at the time, and the way the game was being handled and direction was just completely fucked. They had designed all these areas, but they didn't know when in the game you were actually going to go through them, and it was just a fuck development.
Stay on the presentation then. What about music?
Music, terrible.
Yeah,
I've actually turned it off because normally when I play this game I'll just listen to Spotify, but
not only is it terrible, but it's always mixed up appallingly. It's just, you just can't.
You can barely hear it.
It's just yelling. It may as well just be and that's it.
Well, say what you will about the first Dark Souls soundtrack.
A masterpiece.
That shit got personality. You can't ignore it, and it adds to the stress and tension of every boss fight. But this game, this is another thing. This boss we're doing right now, it's just 3 dudes in armor, lanky dudes in armor.
Oh, this is the boss, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the boss.
Yeah. And I mean, there are some fucking duds in the first game, don't get me wrong, but at least each one, it serves a purpose in the game, and was clearly
lore, as a part of the lore. What do these guys represent or do? They don't feel they're just here. It just feels the boss around now. Yeah, that's how it feels like. Yeah, we'll just put one here. That'll do.
Yeah, because that was something they boasted about in the marketing. There's triple the bosses in this game to Dark Souls 1. And you bet they're
one thing
just
I've
as
noticed about
hard.
this game, just from an outsider's perspective, is that the creature design seems much weaker than the kind of fucked shit you see in Dark Souls 1, Sekiro 3, Bloodborne.
Yeah, there's just way less variation overall. And that it just comes down to this blandness. And all the areas are
They don't feel like they could possibly be connected either.
No, like obviously that was a huge thing about Dark Souls 1. It was super well known for its
They don't
like
even feel like they
world
don't feel like they
feeling
share
organic.
the same world. I could deal with them like Dark Souls 3 obviously doesn't connect things the same way, but you feel like, yeah, this shares the same world. Sure.
Yeah. And I remember when I first played this game, it was on the Xbox One, Scholar of the First Sin, and I got it, and I played it in your room, Alex, at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing you said was like, "Is this a PS2 game?" Because it like you just look at like wall textures, and it's like, how?
What year did this come out for reference? Sorry.
Oh fuck!
Originally, it came out in 2014.
Oh, really?
2014, so a year before GTA 5.
No, a year after GTA 5. It came
What?
out in 2014. Yeah, it came out into the Xbox. We were already in the PlayStation 4, Xbox
That's
One.
right. Yeah.
'Cause I remember getting this game on Xbox 360 and being a bit bummed out that I had to swap my consoles around. And yeah, just playing it for a little while and then just sort of not wanting to finish it and selling it. Then it came out about a
So
year
it
later.
looked aged when it came out.
Yeah,
And again, like
we're
Dark Souls
playing
1,
the original
isn't-
right now. Sorry, just to
yeah. But yeah, Dark Souls 1 isn't the best looking game ever, like on a technical level.
It got heart, it got style, it got consistency.
And it was a fresh new thing. For the time.
with
It wasn't
a
popular.
breathtaking art style.
So I'm
Whereas-
curious where you guys stand sort of on kind of top level. Like, do you think this is a good game or do you think it's just systemically fucked? Or do you think it's just a bad Dark Souls game?
The way I always put it is it's a good Souls like ripoff,
Yeah,
but
but to call it Dark Souls is insulting.
yeah. Whereas with a sequel, you want basically every aspect to be improved.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Not go back.
Whereas, yeah, this one, not only is it graphically worse, but it feels worse.
Mm-hmm.
Then the
It
first
sounds
game.
worse.
Way worse, and it does sound way worse. It feels cheap.
Yeah.
That's strange how
Um,
cheap it feels.
Yeah, I guess moving on to like gameplay, there's in Dark Souls 1, you feel 90% of the time you feel super in control of your character.
Mm. And it can be as simple in this game as you don't have much control over what direction you can face off
Yeah,
of like
so
just either stick.
for example, on screen, I'm just going to walk forwards, and I'm wiggling the left stick, so the stick that controls you, like left and right. But for the most part, the character just stays on a straight line going forwards. I don't know what the delay is for you, Alex, but
Right.
like they did this weird thing with the controls in this game where the stick doesn't actually like represent the direction you're moving in. There's 8 directions you can move in. So that's forwards, right a little bit, right, backwards, back to the right a bit, and then the same but for the left.
The only way you can change it is if you push forwards and like turn with the right stick. But that in Dark Souls, because this game wants you to do a bit of like platforming every now and then, and it wants you to be more precise than the game can even afford to let you be, which is it was a problem in Dark Souls 1, and they just sort of fucked it all off completely by 3. But it's just especially annoying in this game because the rest of the game sucks so hard. I can't forgive it for anything.
So what would you say is the biggest problem with the game?
It's not like there is one thing that they fucked. It's
So it's death by 1,000 cuts kind of situation.
yeah. And every time you play this game, there'll just be like another thing that pisses you off, you know?
Do you have like a gameplay example of like a bad kind of setup for an encounter or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, right as the video started, you enter this building and then you get rushed by these 3 enemies. We were playing co-op, so it didn't look quite as bad, but you're rushed by 3 enemies that all look identical. These 3 like armored knight-looking dudes. We're gonna go see it again pretty soon. And then from down some stairs, you get rushed by like another 3, and then if you go past them, there's like another 3.
Right.
Whereas in the first game, they set up these like instances, you know, these carefully designed, like a Mario level,
Right.
where you sort of see everything that's in front of you. Sure, both games have their like pranks and bullshit moments, but it's clearly designed in a way where you're sort of sorry, I'm getting distracted by playing the game.
There's one very big issue that I always remember, and that is enemies attacking you and their attack animations following you while they're, in it.
Yeah, I mean that's a big thing with this game.
You can't ever dodge. You never feel confident dodging.
So
It's a bit crap.
it's hard to compare to Dark Souls 1 without you being able to see it, but I'm just going to roll around for a second so you can see the roll animation.
Yeah.
And this animation, in my opinion, is fucking terrible.
Why?
Because there's no clear beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah. If we compared it to 1, you'd see.
Yeah, or 3.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you roll, the way Dark Souls works is that you get iframes, invincibility frames. Like that's when you're in like mid-roll and you can't get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
The purpose of the roll. Whereas in this game, the roll is just this sort of one continuous thing. And then added on top of that is this it completely baffles me that they did this, but there's an upgrade. So
Yes.
you the way you level up in these games is that you choose all these different stats, and there's this one ADP. And the higher that is, the more invincibility frames you have during your roll.
Oh.
So, like, a core mechanic, one of the, like, 3
Is a stat.
ways to defend yourself is just a stat that is shit unless you upgrade it.
And if we look at it from a PvP perspective, there should be at least one consistent thing throughout, which is, everyone has a role. You can tell. They've got a light roll, a medium roll, or a fat roll. By adding a stat, you kind of undo.
Well, yeah, and you condition the player by early on, because people that played the first game and then moved on to this one are gonna know like how to roll and stuff, and then they'll be rolling at the start of the game when your stat is low, and then see that it just doesn't work.
Right.
So then you're telling the player just like the thing that is conventionally boring in Dark Souls is taking a shield and just hiding behind that the whole time. So that's something people complained about in the first game, and they condition players in this one to basically only do that for all encounters, and it works too well in all encounters.
So what about like what are some things you like about this game?
They ironically improved the way rolling feels when you're locked on.
Yeah.
Whereas in Dark Souls 1, there's only 4 directions you can roll in when locked on, because they only have 4 animations for it.
And you can
So
sprint
like
while locked on.
backwards, forwards, left and right. Yeah, and sprinting feels better.
People like to say the DLC is extremely good in this game.
But I beg to fucking differ. That's one of my biggest issues, probably.
Really?
Yeah.
In what way?
Everything that's bad about this game, which is overly tanky enemies, funny poise, bad. Like you can roll in this game, but still take damage, and it just always feels a little bit unearned. You're a bit like, well, why though? How? I'm trying to think which one it is that we did. I forget the name of it, but you are in the Black Gulch for anyone that's played Dark Souls 2, and then I think you go to it from around there, or you get the key from there or something. And you're fighting these enemies that I don't know what it was about them, but it was just you couldn't stagger them, and they could always attack you and deal loads of damage, and it always felt unfair. I might be dead.
Is there a particular location you think is like the weakest in the game that highlights all the problems?
None of the areas are just... None of them feel as tightly designed. Obviously, the area I'm blanking on with the bed of chaos in it in the first game is like embarrassingly shit.
Lost Izalith.
Lost Izalith. There's no forgiving how bad that is. But going from Dark Souls 1, just these areas that fucking stay in your mind for ages, compared to this place we're in right now, the grey place, surrounded by water, where you fight people in armor. It's like...
Right.
Yeah, nothing really feels like it. There wasn't much thought put into what belongs where and how they should behave.
I have a vivid memory of Jim playing this game around when it first came out, and just seeing him get really frustrated at this like water place. Maybe it was poison.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
So places that stand out, not as good, but as bad, is that fucking place.
Yeah, Shrine of Amana.
So what they did was they filled the place with water. So you move slowly the whole time, and then have just these enemies that shoot like magic projectiles at you the whole time.
But also enemies that sneak in the water and like
do
something stupid when you're in. I can't remember what they do, but yeah,
you never feel, in my opinion, like you've mastered this game.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's always just got some bullshit. Even if you're on your fucking third playthrough, like you've played the game through 3 times, you should know what's coming, but it's just bullshit. Like it never feels right.
You guys like the follow-up Dark Souls 3. What does that game do right where this game cocks up then?
I would, without getting particularly technical, it would just be that it took what Dark Souls 1 did and made it better. Just made the game feel modern, better, improved. More money was spent on it. More time was spent on it. They had an idea of what Dark Souls was, and they just sort of went with it a bit further. Well, quite a lot further, actually.
Well, it's funny. Some of the worst things from Dark Souls 3 are stuff they left over from this game. Like, for example, having to go through a loading screen every time you want to level up. Like, that's just a fucking waste of time. Why change that when it is just objectively worse? I think the way the healing works in 2 and 3 is worse than the first game. Whereas, like, so you've got your Estus flask, the iconic Estus flask.
Mm-hmm.
So in the first game, every bonfire will refill you to 5, unless you kindle it using a rare resource, which brings it to 10, and then you can get it to like 15 and 20 later on in the game. But in this one and the third game, they're just pickups. They're just items that you find around the world. So then by the end of the game, you're always carrying 15, unless you missed some. So it feels like Dark Souls 1 sort of had a difficulty slider naturally built within it, where you can make every area easier by choosing to kindle your bonfire further.
Right. So you don't think the game? You don't think Dark Souls 2 is too hard?
No, it's probably the easiest of the 3.
Why is it the easiest?
the game lets you get away with a lot of shit. I mean, first of all, it seems as though you can get way more level ups than the other games.
Unfortunately, this game makes you waste it on being able to roll better.
Yeah. It feels like they did that because they made it too easy to level up. So they were like, we're just going to put a thing in where you basically have to level this one stat up to make the game playable, which is just stupid because the game doesn't tell you that roll and invincibility frames are linked to level ups.
What about like the lore and story side of it, if you care about that?
I mean, I do.
Is there anything important in Dark Souls 2? Is it kind of essential in that regard?
No. The director obviously saw what Dark Souls 1 was like credited to be, this sort of vague story. And that one word is what he took for the whole game, is vague. So the like intro cutscene, the woman that's talking is like, you're going to die over and over and you won't really know why. And that's basically all the context you get.
How do you get more?
The same as Dark Souls 1, just reading shit. But that in Dark Souls 1 they give you a clear, and 3, it's like these are the bad guys that you need to kill to progress. And then like early on you'll talk to a dude that tells you how to get there, etc., etc. Where in this game it's just sort of like, well, off you go. Go in any of 4 directions, and
that's what is it she says? Bear the curse, seek souls, larger, more powerful souls. Seek the king, that is the only way.
Yeah, it's vaguer, but it doesn't have any of the smartness behind it. Like everything every character says in Dark Souls 1 feels super intentional. Whereas in this, it's like a stereotype of Dark Souls.
Yeah. I'm finding it hard to really put into words what it is that's so wrong with this game, but 2 words I keep sort of thinking as it's incoherent and it's inconsistent. Everything just seems disjointed and it wasn't purposefully made. It feels a bit just like,
yeah, to me it seems like it was made by someone who had an idea of what Dark Souls is without understanding what Dark Souls is. Or made by people, I should say.
How long did it take you to figure out that you didn't like it? Because you played this game a fair amount.
Yeah, well, I mean, I defended it early on. Like when you said that this game looks like a PS2 game, I was like, no, this is Dark Souls, shut up.
I remember
I think it was after Dark Souls 3 going back and thinking I'd give it a go.
I remember realizing I'd given up on this game. I remember remembering, like, oh yeah, you just didn't finish those DLCs because they sucked.
Yeah, we got all the DLCs in
the Scholar of the First
Sin, and we played 1. Well, you played like most of 1. I finished 1, started another, and just thought.
What stopped you playing it then?
For me, it was a bad boss that I just sort of. But like, I mean, it was a combination of me not being especially good at Dark Souls at the time. And just a very irritating, very typical of Dark Souls 2 boss, which was just to have, 2 or 3 enemies fighting you at once, and one of them's really strong and will kill you really fast, and the other one's always applying pressure. And it just in this game with how bad rolling is, and I just remember not wanting to do it because I just was like, this is shit now. It's gone past whatever point, because getting to the boss wasn't even like fun.
Did you finish the DLCs, Jim?
I finished the first one.
What was it?
It's I understand why people say they make the game good, because they are clearly like more. They're designed in a more concise way. Like it feels like a sequel to Dark Souls 1, just in the like where they place enemies and whatnot.
They got it
But-
right by then, but it's built on a toxic foundation.
Yeah, exactly. The foundation it was built on, just it feels like crap. It feels worse than Dark Souls 1, which I can't forgive.
That does sound pretty bad.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier animations.
Mm-hmm.
So the animation that you're going to see the most in this game is just the light jog, the walking animation.
Mm-hmm.
And if you watch it, it looks like it's not quite complete. So like he steps to the right, then to the left, and then jolts back to like restart the animation. Where he's
Oh, I see what you mean.
Like-
Yeah,
yeah,
that's quite weird.
it's really bizarre. Like it just
When you notice
adds
it.
to this cheap feeling of this game.
Maybe it had a small budget and had to be completed in a short amount of time. I don't know.
Like I said, it was being directed by this dude that had no idea what he was doing, and then they put like a bunch of money into it and shit, and then they were like, "Wait, this game just doesn't work. Like we got all these areas and shit, but it's clearly not complete." So they just had to get some other guy to come in and basically finish the game. Be like this put this area here, etc., etc.
How does it make you feel that, on average on Metacritic, Dark Souls 2 is the highest rated Souls game?
Product of the time, I think. It's just classic video game journalist bullshit back in 2014. It was really bad for sort of everything between 2010 and 2015. It was just like, yeah, everything's a 9 or a 10.
It struck me as it was like overcompensating for not jerking off the first game more.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, look, there's more Dark Souls and you need to be on this type thing without being as critical of it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were scared of
Not appearing trendy.
getting in trouble with the
'cause
game.
there was that controversy with Total Biscuit, wasn't there, over Dark Souls 1?
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah,
it criticised it for how badly it ran on PC, which it did.
yeah, which is totally fair.
And there was a huge pushback. I'd forgotten about that. But yeah, I don't know what other questions I can really think of, because that's kind of covered most of the game. How does it run? Is it alright on PC?
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, I can't speak for when it came out because, like I said, I played it on Xbox One and pretty sure it was like
on
60
Xbox
frames
One.
and it ran fine.
Yeah. I don't know what it was like on 360. I can't remember. Didn't play it enough to actually.
Well, I
know.
mean, the game looks like it should run pretty well on a 360.
Yeah.
Like fucking Halo 2 looks about as good as this game.
I mean,
So would you recommend to someone who's interested in the Souls series to skip Dark Souls 2 and just play 1 and 3? Sekiro or what?
I tell them not to feel bad if they decide they hate this game and can't be bothered with it. If they previously liked 1 or 3 and they play this game and they think it's shit,
Yeah, I
don't feel bad. Just don't bother. It's fine. It's not worth it. It really isn't worth it.
So to cap it off then, what would your ratings out of 10 be then?
This game?
Mm-hmm. For Dark Souls 2.
If we're just doing out of 10, then I'd probably give it a 5. I think it's pretty nothing.
What about you, Jim?
Yeah, it's difficult to say because when you expect so much more from
Yeah.
a developer or a franchise. Like Halo 5, for example, I think deserves lower scores than what it gets because it is Halo.
But it's got the legacy attached to it, and so you want to forgive it because other stuff that's better preceded.
Well, I mean, speaking objectively, Dark Souls 2, like now, since playing it again, I don't think it is a full-on bad game.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's a full-on bad.
But why would I play this when Dark Souls 1 exists, Dark Souls 3 exists,
Yeah.
Sekiro exists, fucking Ashen exists?
Like, I would give it a 5.5, but I just, for simplicity, 5.
Just ever so slightly above average.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say objectively it's probably around a 6 or a 7, but then taking into account what it should be, it's like a 3 or a 4.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well, I give it a 10. I don't know what you guys are fucking on.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I just want to give the example. This game got really high ratings, but like Skyward Sword got a 10 from IGN, and Uncharted 3 got a 10 from IGN. So like that's what those times are all about.
James just joined in.
Oh,
Yeah.
shit,
What would you
James.
give Dark Souls 2 out of 10, James?
James? James?
Does he know he's joined?
James?
Presumably he knows he's joined.
Is he just listening?
Yeah, he'd just be doing a funny joke. He's being a troll.
I've just joined to say Dark Souls game, and I'm going to argue
Say
that
that
it's
again.
possibly
Wait,
the best Dark Souls game.
Say that again, James, from the beginning, because you lagged.
Dark Souls 2 is the best Dark Souls game.
It's just so wrong. I mean, like even as a joke, it actually like my initial reaction is a bit like, oh, I just can't hear those words and not feel angry.
The stream quality is shit itself. I mean, on that note,
No.
I think that covers it pretty much.
Yeah. The trouble is, I would come up with more things to say, but I play this game a bit, and I notice the problems as I go, and then I forget about them. And I remember that I don't like the game very much, but I just struggle to keep them in the forefront of my mind.
I was going to take notes while playing through this game in anticipation for
Oh yeah,
this video. But then me and Ruben just started playing Dark Souls 1.
yeah. I just bought remastered and had a way better time.
Just got
Really, yeah.
completely
Can't say I
distracted.
blame
Like, this game can suck my balls and eat my ass.
From behind.
Majula looks
Sure,
nice,
yeah.
eh?
Bad music in Majula though.
Got it all turned off.
I've closed the game.
Okay. Any final words?
Yeah, and I don't want to give any more opinions on other Dark Souls games. I can wait for another time. But Dark Souls 2, lame.
If this video gets 100,000 likes, then I'll go way more in depth about it.
Yeah, maybe I would be inclined to like contribute to something like that if there was desire to, but it's hard to motivate oneself to play. I just really I don't like Dark Souls 2. There are so many other games that I don't like that I could sooner play, but Dark Souls 2 sort of it demands more attention than I think it deserves. It demands more out of you, more effort than I just really am willing to give to it.
Mm-hmm.
It still wants Dark Souls effort. It still wants you to like pay attention and dodge and phone, but I don't want to give it that because it sucks.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That's my last bit. I'm done. No more words.
I used the Dark Souls 2 Scholar of the First Sin disc to wipe my ass.
That must have hurt.
Worth it, dude.
Okay. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed and got something out of this. Fairly meaty conversation. It's half of a cast, basically. Just on Dark Souls 2, so...
But yeah, tax though. Tax.
What country has this fucked up tax system?
Ours is actually pretty terrible. Our brackets are just like insane.
They are bad. Yeah, they make no
It's because they're so broad. The jumps between it's like 50,000. Then it's 150,000. That's the next. It's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
Well, let us know in the comments what you think on your country's tax system and maybe your thoughts on Dark Souls 2 if you care. Otherwise,
I want to hear all about that tax.